one of our mantras was, what time is it? It's nation time.
There was an energy about the East that brought together the artists and the willingness of the people to just have this experience, this joint experience.
I'm from New York, and I have family that are from that area, and I didn't know anything about this. And the East is about a Black initiative that was based around education and community from a very long time ago. I think from segregation times, the late '60s, and how it was built in New York as an alternative for Black children to find their identity in an American society that was not quite treating them like they were fully human. This piece was great because it was so well researched. There were so many people in the piece that were literally working at the time, working with the group. You get to see people who were as children interacting with that group and how they have gone older and who they've become and how their perspective has changed over time. It's a really interesting sort of sociological examination of how you can help raise people to be more compassionate, more empathetic, and have a broader understanding of what it means to have a community or what it means to be an individual as well. So I thought that in general, the piece was created with a level of passion and detail that really made it accessible to both people that were familiar to the concept and who had didn't know anything about it.
This was such a fascinating documentary. I had never heard of this before. I'm in Canada, but I'm still sad that I've never heard of this before because I would have loved to be a part of it. Just really amazing getting to hear from these community members, especially the elder ones who were really there from the ground up and just talking about all of the ways in which they are or they had been working towards fostering a community of support and empowerment for its members within a larger community or environment that often disregards and disrespects its Black community members. So really creating this like safe haven. And something that really stuck out to me was how much they encourage and foster developing your talents and your skills. Somebody had said, it's disrespectful to your ancestors to have a gift and not use it. And that really struck me. If you can sing, why aren't you singing? If you can dance, why aren't you dancing? You're given these gifts to use them and to share them with the world and to share your story. And it's a waste to just let them go. And as an artist, that just, that really stuck with me. So, And then the other thing was, I loved how much footage they had and photographs and, newspaper documents they had. They were really high quality, the speeches and the videos and everything like that. I was like, where did they get all this footage from? It's incredible. And so I got so much information, brand new information that I'd never heard of before. This is so cool. I'm so proud of my community. And I absolutely loved listening to this.
Very much a story of empowerment and also just a testament to where we were, where we are, and how much more we have to go. One of the things that especially stood out to me was the comment about essentially a testament of where we are at a point in time where even when things are in good intention, there are still flaws. Case in point, while the fight was for racial rights, there was still a lot of issues when it came to patriarchy and sexism. And relating it to today, it reminds me of the current standings where we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to race and sex. But I've noticed that while there's an open backlash if someone says anything against that, there's still this hesitation when it comes to points such as LGBTQ or if I were to be specific, trans rights. And that's kind of what that reminds me of is while the concept of race had been radicalized, people were more hesitant to mention gender equality because at that point it was more socially acceptable to have patriarchal ideals. All in all, though, I definitely hope that as we continue on in the future, we constantly make more progress and hopefully we don't revert, you know?
I thought that was really cool, and I loved that the documentary brought so much attention to the legacy of the East and how, even though it is no longer, it no longer exists, its legacy does, and in the people that were so in love with this organization of people and this movement that they went off and branched out and created their own organizations and taught their children, and then their children will teach their children, and the East lives on in its people, even though there's no more brick and mortar building, as they said. So I thought the documentary did a great job of highlighting that in particular. I thought that the use of all the talking heads worked really well. Everyone who talked about the East, you could just tell that they had this huge love and passion for this organization and the people within it. So I thought that all of them served excellently in this film. The music worked really well. Visually, the story unfolding was great. I was never taken out of the story. I was never left wanting for a visual because the footage was so extensive that they had compiled for this film.
I thought that this was a very in-depth discussion and coverage, well-researched piece on something that isn't that well known within the general American or even, especially global consciousness. There was a really good use of music throughout the film, which is something that stuck out to me as I was watching. The subjects of the film, the people being interviewed, the people being discussed, were varied. They all had reasons for being there, interesting things to contribute, and added more depth to the things that were being covered by the film. I would also say that a lot of the things that I praised about the last film I watched, Living While American, can carry over to this one as well. This is another very relevant piece, and I think it succeeds in this current setting, in this current time on that front, in addition to for the reasons mentioned prior. So overall, I thought that this was quite good, very well done.
I actually enjoyed it because it showed what people can do when they're forced to do things for themselves. You can't rely on the government. You can't rely on anyone but themselves. And the people in the East actually seemed like a giant family. And it showed the value of community and rising for yourselves. It showed what the true American way was supposed to be when you rely on community rather than outside forces. It is what we're supposed to be. The family in this, where they welcome and were loving to all from African descent, worked within their community, even though it eventually fell with the rising times. It's sad that it did disappear. As time went on, the community that it lives in is still very segregated, and it's kind of sad that they want to keep it that way rather than use that education in their culture, which should be preserved, to continue to teach people the value of community. I do appreciate that the film was closed captioned. It helped with some aspects when you're in a noisy environment. But I did learn a lot. It helps a lot where it shows the value of culture and community and how it can rise up in an area.
And overall, the documentary was good. It gave them different perspectives. Touched on how important that movement was at the time. It was just well done. So different perspectives. Seemed like a very well put together documentary.